Imagine walking into the IELTS speaking test knowing no matter what topic comes up, you'll get the score that you need. Now picture walking out of the test center knowing you've got the score that is going to change your life forever. This might sound impossible, but it's not. I know this because I've helped thousands of students who were worried about the test get a band 7, 8 or even 9 in IELTS speaking. And I did this by sharing 2 things with them. Number 1, I gave them 5 key speaking frameworks that anyone can learn. And number 2, I gave them samples of other successful students using them so they could model those frameworks and learn from successful students. So in this video, we're going to share the exact same things with you, the 5 frameworks, and show you successful students using them. And also, I've included all 5 strategies and samples in one PDF download for you. Plus, at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you something that you should never do using these strategies. So let's start off with the 3 most common frameworks that our band 8 and 9 students use again and again. These are the Pell framework, the 1, 2, 3 framework, and the AAA framework. And I'm also going to give you 2 advanced bonus frameworks too, and I'm going to put those in the PDF download for you. But let's start off with my favorite framework, the Pell framework. This is easy to remember because it's my name, Chris Pell, P-E-L-L. So if you're stuck on test day, just think of me and you'll be absolutely fine. So I asked this student this question: do you think that it's better to buy a property or rent a property?
Please don't.
We then gave her this framework, the Pell framework, and asked her to try her best. Listen and see if you can spot what she did.
I personally think it's better to buy a property. So from my personal experience, because I bought a property, I feel like if you have a property, if you buy a property, you are investing somewhere rather than just giving the money to the landlords. Like every month you would pay a certain amount from your pocket, which goes towards the mortgage or whatever, the loans. And by the end of 5 years or 10 years, you would have yourself a house or an apartment. But if you do rent, I think you're just wasting money.
So let's look at each sentence that she said together.
I personally think it's better to buy a property.
So she started off by making one simple point. So instead of her thinking of all the different ways that she could answer this question, which often causes students to freeze, there's just too many ways you could answer it, we asked her to pick one point of view, but importantly, pick the point of view that was easiest for her to talk about. So remember, it's not a knowledge test or an IQ test, it's a speaking test. So if you're asked a question like this and 20 different possibilities come up in your mind, that's like opening 20 tabs in your browser on your computer. Your computer is going to slow down, your brain is going to slow down. Just open one tab and pick one point of view, which is the easiest for you to talk about. Then she followed the main point up with this.
From my personal experience, because I bought a property, I feel like if you have a property, if you buy a property, you are investing somewhere rather than just giving the money to the landlords.
So all she's doing here is just taking that main point and then elaborating. Elaboration means you talk about it more. So this could be an explanation to help the examiner understand the main point, or a reason why you chose that point, or an example or a personal story. The key here is to elaborate with the purpose of helping the examiner understand, not just talking for the sake of talking. Now, many other structures and frameworks will tell you exactly what type of sentence to use, like they will force you to use an explanation or an example. We don't do that because this limits you and it can often cause more problems than it solves. So instead of thinking I need to use an explanation or an example, just think what would be the best way to help the examiner understand my point of view. And it gives you the freedom to talk more naturally. So let's move on to the next point, level up.
Every month you would pay a certain amount from your pocket, which goes towards the mortgage or whatever, the loans. And by the end of 5 years or 10 years, you would have yourself a house or an apartment.
So we've elaborated our main point. Next, we need to level up our answer. We level up by again focusing on how can I help the examiner understand my main point even more. This could be a further explanation, an example, a personal story, or a new point to your main point or a contrasting point. Now that might sound a little bit confusing. I'm giving you so many options, but it is actually better in the speaking test if you have more options because you have more freedom. It's like giving you more tools in your toolkit because you're going to be asked a range of different questions on different topics, but instead of thinking I must use an example or I must use a personal anecdote or something like that, it's just like, how can I level up this answer? How can I help them understand and pick the right tool for the job? So in this answer, she decides to talk about the long-term benefit of owning a house.
If you do rent, I think you're just wasting money.
So what she does there is she links it back to the question by restating the question and contrasting it with renting. This means the examiner is 100% certain that you have answered the question fully. Now let's look at a different student and think about how she used the same framework, but for a very, very different question. Do you believe that all museums and art galleries should be free?
So I would say my first instinct is to say that yes, I believe that art galleries and museums should be free because what's inside them, all the artifacts and historical paintings and books and whatnot, they belong to the people, they belong to the human race. However, I also understand that upkeep is expensive. Maintenance is also very costly. So I think maybe charging a small fee is very reasonable. I like what they've done in France, especially because they allow people to go to museums for free every first Sunday, I believe, of the month, something like that.
That's probably the first time you've heard that framework. So what I've done is I've put it in here with examples in the PDF download so that you can review it later and fully understand it. And there's practice questions in there and lots more. So if you want that, it's in the description and in the pinned comment. So let's move on to our next framework, which is the 1, 2, 3 framework. Often you'll get a question where there's no clear answer. So there may be 2 or more valid viewpoints. There might be some people think this, some people think that. Many students struggle to answer these questions because they see multiple pathways. And similarly to when there's too many ideas, this causes confusion and it feels like you are at a crossroads and you're unsure about where to go. But with the 1, 2, 3 framework, this actually turns this problem into an opportunity. So listen how this student deals with a very difficult question and try to spot what the 1, 2, 3 framework means. Some people think that the best way to help other people is to be as empathetic as possible, while other people think that you should be brutally honest with people. Which do you think is the best approach?
Oh, tough one. Can you just repeat the question again?
So did you notice what he did there? He asked me to repeat the question. That's because he was struggling to really structure the answer in his head. But asking me to repeat the question gave him the time to think of the 1, 2, 3 framework that we taught him, and he was able to give this answer.
Okay, it's a tough one, but I think they both go hand in hand. Let's say being an empath or having empathy towards someone, it's really good, especially if they are having like a major problem in their life or they are trying to solve it. Let's say you can't be brutally honest with someone because you might end up pushing him or her to. So in this case, you have to be really empathetic or trying to choose your words wisely. But in terms, let's say, someone who is actually rude or not a nice person and someone who is a bully or trying to attack someone, you have to be brutally honest and strict with them and tell them you are doing something wrong. You can't be like that or you can't act this way. So it depends on the context or the situation that this person in.
So let's break down what he did there.
Okay, it's a tough one, but I think they both go hand in hand.
So number one, the first thing he does is acknowledge that there are two sides to the answer. And you can remember this by thinking number one is the first thing to do. Then number two, he speaks about both sides.
Let's say being an empath or having empathy towards someone, it's really good, especially if they are having like a major problem in their life or they are trying to solve it. Let's say you can't be brutally honest with someone because you might end up pushing him or her to. So in this case, you have to be really empathetic or trying to choose your words wisely. But in terms, let's say, someone who is actually rude or not a nice person and someone who is a bully or trying to attack someone, you have to be brutally honest and strict with them and tell them you are doing something wrong. You can't be like that or you can't act this way.
And you can remember this by thinking, there are two sides to every story. And then number three, he finishes his answer by repeating that there's no clear answer. It really depends on the context.
So it depends on the context or the situation that this person in.
And you can remember that by three is the third thing that you should do. But also, this is known as the third way. It's used in politics and debates, but in many, many issues, there is one side on the left and one side on the right. But the third way is to say neither of them is right or wrong. It totally depends on the circumstances. And this in itself is an opinion. This is especially useful for part 3 questions because there will normally be two sides to the argument and it requires you to speak at length and fully develop your answers. So instead of just talking about what you think or talking about one side, you are fully developing your answer and talking about both sides of the argument. Take a look at this student and think about how she used this strategy for a very tricky question.
Is it better to visit a city alone or with other people?
I think it depends. It's both. A lot of people, they like to travel solo, and a lot of people, they need to have people around them. For example, if you're going to watch a show, maybe if you are with somebody and you're watching a show, you'll enjoy it more because you have a company with you. For some people, they would prefer to be alone and watch it because they can probably consume or intake and really soak in the experience. So it depends. It's very subjective, I guess.
So hopefully you were able to see how she was able to take a very, very difficult question and just apply that framework to really develop her answer and impress the examiner. I've also included the 1, 2, 3 and the Pell framework inside, plus all the other frameworks and the bonus frameworks inside the PDF for you, showing you exactly what it is. So if you're confused about them, you can go back and look at them. And we've also included bonuses and practice questions, all the things you need to actually use these on test day. Just go down to the description or the pinned comment, click on the link, and you can download it for free. It's my gift to you. But even with these two frameworks, some students still struggle, which is where our next framework comes in, AAA. AAA is easy to remember because AAA often refers to the highest grade of something. It also refers to anti-aircraft guns, so you can remember this by thinking that this framework allows you to shoot down any question the examiner throws at you, even the difficult ones. AAA is especially useful in part 2 of the test, but it can be used in any part of the test. Listen to the student giving her answer and see if you can spot what AAA means.
The first time I met a new friend, so I'm going to go way back. It was my first year of school, kindergarten, and I met a girl named Amanpreet Kaur. We were about, I think we just turned 4 years old. We met obviously in kindergarten, first year of school. What I liked about her when I first saw her, I mean, we were sitting together where the teacher made us sit next to each other. And she had this long hair and it was like sectioned into 2 parts and it was just braided all the way down. And she had the cutest face I've ever seen. She had this little fluffy marshmallow-like face. I guess that's all it takes when you're a kid to want to be friends with somebody. And then I tried to... So there's like this little thing that kids do where they put their thumb out to show other kids that I want to be your friend. And then if you don't want to be friends with them, you do this. It's like it's a silly little thing. So I did this to her. I put my thumb out to say, hey, do you want to be friends? And she was like, this. And I was heartbroken. I was like, how can she not want to be my friend? And then I saw her again the next day, and the next day after that, and the day after that. And then eventually we ended up becoming best friends. She did it back to me, obviously, at some point.
So let's go through her answer and see what she did here.
The first time I met a new friend.
So A, answer the question. It can be short and simple, but it's really important to tell the examiner, I've understood the question and I've answered the question. More importantly, it helps your brain to focus on answering the question. So starting off by directly answering the question aligns your thoughts and makes sure that the rest of your answer is relevant to the question asked.
It was my first day of school, kindergarten, and I met a girl named Amanpreet Kaur. We were about, I think we just turned 4 years old. We met obviously in kindergarten, first day of school.
The second A is add detail. This helps you develop your answer, which is very, very important, especially in part 2 and part 3 of the test. But it also gives the examiner enough information to understand what you are talking about. Think about facts like dates, places, times, or who, what, why, where, how. It doesn't have to be those, but if you're really, really stuck, you can think of those. Again, they're tools in your toolkit. And remember, you will have 1 minute to prepare during part 2 of the speaking test. So those little things, you can add it and write it down on the cue card, and that could help you fully develop your answers on test day.
What I liked about her when I first saw her, I mean, we were sitting together where the teacher made us sit next to each other. And she had this long hair and it was like sectioned into 2 parts and it was just braided all the way down. And she had the cutest face I've ever seen. She had this little fluffy marshmallow-like face. I guess that's all it takes when you're a kid to want to be friends with somebody. And then I tried to, so there's like this little thing that kids do where they put their thumb out to show other kids that I want to be your friend. And then if you don't want to be friends with them, you do this. It's like it's a silly little thing. So I did this to her. I put my thumb out to say, hey, do you want to be friends? And she was like, this. And I was heartbroken.
So after giving all of those details, the third A is anecdote. Anecdote just means to tell a story. This could be a story from your own life, or a story about someone you know, or a story that you heard. People often find it easier to speak at length using stories. They're the most natural way that people speak. But don't worry if you can't think of a story. Just pick one of the other frameworks. Some people are natural storytellers and can talk all day telling stories, like me. Other people hate telling stories. That's why we've given you 5 frameworks, not just one. Pick the ones that are most comfortable for you to talk about. And talking about other frameworks, I've included all 5 in the PDF download for you. All you have to do is just go to the pinned comment or the description, click the button, and it will take you to a page where you can download this 100% for free. So I've given you all 3 of the frameworks we've talked about today, and I've given you 2 bonus frameworks, so you'll have all the tools you need to practice, prepare, and perform great on test day. But even if you learn these frameworks, you might not get the score that you deserve on test day. This is because there are a few traps set by IELTS speaking examiners, and if you fall for those traps, it might lower your score. But don't worry, I've made another video for you telling you what those traps are and how to avoid them. Just click here and you can watch that video now.